You could feel it the moment practice started on day 6. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. But it was unmistakable. Something had changed in the air at Brown's camp. While the coaching staff tried to maintain a poker face and keep the reps on their rigid rotation, the energy surrounding Shedeur Sanders was impossible to ignore. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. The buzz? It wasn't just background noise anymore. It was a signal. Something big was coming. The day started with more of the same. Flacco running with the ones. Gabriel tried to recover from yesterday's pick-6. And Shedeur tucked into second-team reps with the usual cast of backups and rookies. But even with those constraints, Sanders was surgical. Drive after drive, throw after throw. He was clean, efficient, and most importantly, calm. He never rushed, never forced. One moment in particular had the sidelines buzzing. 3rd and long, flush from the pocket, with a collapsing interior and a defensive end bearing down on his blind side. Shedeur didn't panic. He slid out to his left, reset his feet, and zipped a 25-yard laser into the chest of his receiver right at the boundary. First down. Applause erupted from both sides of the field, coaches included. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel couldn't catch a break. On his first rep of the day with the starters, he misread the coverage, hesitated, and floated a pass right into the arms of a waiting cornerback. Pick 6. Again. That's 2 on consecutive days. The murmurs from the sideline weren't subtle anymore. One assistant coach even muttered, "That's a wrap," under his breath as Gabriel jogged off the field. And Flacco? Steady as ever. No mistakes, no fireworks. Just what you'd expect from a seasoned veteran. Short throws, checkdowns, and clockwork timing. He wasn't bad, he was fine. But in this moment, fine doesn't feel good enough. Not when Shedeur Sanders is lighting up every practice, like it's a pro day. What's more, the media can't keep ignoring it. By mid-afternoon, clips of Sanders' throws were already circulating online. A perfectly placed deep ball here, a tight window bullet there. Fans are seeing it. Reporters are seeing it. Even Browns legends have started tweeting cryptic, #5 looks different messages. But the biggest shift might be happening inside the locker room. Veterans are starting to gravitate towards Sanders, not because of hype, but because of trust. He listens. He learns. He doesn't pout. After every rep, he checks the tablet, asks for feedback, and walks teammates through reads. It's not just talent, it's presence, leadership, and in an NFL quarterback room, that matters almost as much as arm strength. One linebacker, speaking anonymously to a local reporter, said, "You line up against all 3, and you just know that kid's got something. You can feel it." Of course, not everyone is happy. Rumors have surfaced that Jimmy Haslam, the team's owner, has tried to distance himself from Sanders' selection. Allegedly, the front office took a flyer on Shedeur without his full backing, and now that the 5th-rounder is making waves, Haslam doesn't want to look like he was out of the loop. It's classic NFL politics. Everyone wants to claim the genius move, but only after it works. There's a sense that internal fractures are forming. On one side, you have the traditionalists, coaches like Kevin Stefanski and some front office personnel who believe in slow development hierarchy and safe decisions. They see Shedeur's rise as exciting, yes, but too fast, too risky, too unorthodox. On the other side, the pragmatists, the ones watching the film, the ones who've had enough of playing it safe with average QBs and endless 3-and-outs. They know what they're seeing. They know what the tape says. They know who gives them the best shot at winning now. The fans are firmly in the latter camp. At this point, the chants for Shedeur at practice are getting louder. Every time he hits a receiver in stride, you hear it. Start him. One kid in a fresh number 5 jersey even shouted, "That's my QB," as Sanders jogged back to the sideline. It's not just optimism, it's a movement. Cleveland, for once, believes. And honestly, who can blame them? This is a city that's been through 28 quarterbacks since 1999. It's a fan base that's seen promise fizzle and talent wasted. They've waited decades for a star under center, someone they can build around. Someone who doesn't just manage games, but takes them over. With every accurate pass and every flawless read, Shedeur is making it harder to ignore the obvious. He's not just here to learn. He's here to lead. But the question now isn't just about performance. It's about politics, about pride, about who's willing to admit they were wrong about draft order, reps, and depth charts. Will the Browns let ego outweigh evidence? Or will they finally break the cycle and embrace the quarterback that's been proving himself from day one? Make no mistake, this story isn't over. It's just getting started. Because if Shedeur Sanders keeps stacking days like this, the Browns won't be able to hide him behind the veterans for long. The locker room won't allow it. The fan base won't allow it. And most of all, the game itself won't allow it. Football has a way of revealing the truth. And the truth at this moment is wearing number 5. As camp rolls into its second week, Shedeur Sanders keeps stacking days. Not just decent ones, commanding ones. Quietly, methodically, with no self-promotion or flair for the dramatic. Just results. You'd think by now the coaching staff would crack, that they'd give him just one rep with the ones. Just one chance to see what he can do in a real game simulation behind the real offensive line with the real weapons. But no, Stefanski stays frozen in place, citing developmental plans and evaluation windows like he's managing a data science lab, not a football team. And that's what's eating the veterans alive. At practice, you can see them sneaking glances during Shedeur's reps with the twos. Receivers clapping harder after his throws. O-linemen giving him extra dap after drills. And you know why? Because they know he's got it. That presence, that timing, that control. The huddle looks different when he steps in. Calmer, sharper, locked in. One insider said it best. The kid doesn't blink. Even the defense is starting to respect him differently. In a recent team drill, Myles Garrett bull rushed the edge, only for Shedeur to sidestep reset and float a 20-yard touch pass over the linebacker's shoulder into the tightest pocket of the zone. The sideline erupted, not with cheers, but with that low hum of damn you hear when greatness sneaks up on you. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel continues to flash and fizzle. One rep, it's a beautiful deep ball. The next, it's a misread, a batted pass, or a fluttering interception that looks like it belongs in a pickup game. You can't build a franchise on maybe. And right now, Gabriel is all maybe. Joe Flacco, every professional, is doing what Joe Flacco does. Making the throws he's supposed to, avoiding catastrophe, and not much else. He's not hurting the team, but he's not pushing it forward either. The staff calls it veteran stability. Fans call it the same old Browns. But Shedeur, he's the wild card, the disruptor, the one guy who doesn't just play quarterback. He is a quarterback. Every day, he chips away at the invisible wall that's been built around the depth chart. The tension is palpable now. After practice, reporters don't even bother asking about the reps anymore. Instead, they ask veiled questions like, is there still time for someone to change the narrative? Or how much weight do preseason games carry in final decisions? Translation, how much longer can you justify keeping Shedeur buried? Stefanski, ever diplomatic, responds with phrases like, we're evaluating everyone equally, and Shedeur's doing a great job with the twos. But everyone knows what that means. We hear the noise and we're trying to ride it out. But that noise isn't going anywhere. In fact, it's growing louder. Not just in Cleveland, but across the league. Other teams are watching. Quietly, carefully. Because if the Browns misplay this and keep Shedeur off the field too long, someone else is going to come calling. The whispers have already started. A mid-season trade? A future free agency play? Could the Browns actually let this talent slip through their fingers again? The irony is too rich. This is the same franchise that passed on Josh Allen. The same one that cycled through 28 different quarterbacks over 2 decades. The same one that let Baker Mayfield implode while surrounding him with chaos. The Browns have been here before, and they've made the wrong call before. So this time, the stakes are different. This isn't just about Shedeur's reps. It's about the future of the franchise. It's about identity. Do the Browns finally want to build around something special? Or are they content to keep recycling mediocrity and wondering why the AFC North chews them up every season? There's a growing belief, especially inside the locker room, that Shedeur isn't just good enough to start. He's good enough to win, not in some distant, hypothetical future. Now, one assistant coach reportedly told a colleague, "He's the best decision-maker we've got, period." And decision-making is what separates the guys who flash in preseason from the ones who win playoff games in January. In scrimmages, Shedeur doesn't throw hospital balls. He doesn't guess. He doesn't panic. Every movement is calculated. Every read is disciplined. He plays like someone who's been reading defenses since he was 8 years old, which, let's be honest, he probably has been. He's got that pedigree. The confidence of someone raised on press conferences and playbooks. The patience of someone who's been underestimated before. The fire of someone who knows that if the door doesn't open, he's going to kick it down. And now, as the first preseason game looms just days away, the Browns face their first real test. Will Shedeur get reps with the ones? Will the coaching staff finally reward performance over pedigree? Will they listen to the locker room, the fan base, and the growing chorus of voices outside the facility who are all saying the same thing? Or will they double down on a flawed depth chart, keep playing politics, and risk letting the most NFL-ready quarterback on the roster slip through the cracks? Time's running out. The pressure is mounting. And the Browns are running out of excuses. Because if Shedeur Sanders walks onto that field under the lights with the real starters and puts on a show we all know he can, there won't be a depth chart anymore. There'll just be a decision. And if Cleveland makes the wrong one, again, they won't just lose a quarterback. They'll lose the future. The days leading up to the Browns' first preseason game are humming with speculation. Every practice rep, every QB drill, every sideline whisper, it's all feeding into one question. When does Shedeur Sanders finally get a shot with the ones? Inside the building, the answer isn't as straightforward as it should be. There's tension, real, unresolved, and obvious. You've got a coaching staff, led by Kevin Stefanski, still clinging to hierarchy and draft pedigree. Then you've got a front office increasingly charmed by Shedeur's upside and the buzz he's bringing to an otherwise recycled storyline in Cleveland. And then there's ownership, publicly detached but clearly aware of the growing movement around Sanders. The media, predictably, is stoking the flames. One local reporter puts it bluntly during a press scrum. If Shedeur isn't getting first-team snaps by next week, what exactly are we doing here? The question hangs in the air like smoke. Stefanski offers a stock reply about the process, but it's clear he's feeling the heat. Shedeur, meanwhile, says nothing. He doesn't need to. His game is doing the talking. The day before the first preseason game, he throws a dime in red zone drills, threading the needle between two defenders for a touchdown that leaves the entire defense looking sideways. Then he walks calmly back to the huddle. No flex, no chest pound, just business. And that's the thing about Shedeur. He's already mastered the quiet confidence of a franchise quarterback. Veteran receivers are taking notice. Amari Cooper, who rarely gets involved in off-field chatter, has reportedly told teammates that Sanders throws the most catchable ball on the team. That's high praise, especially when you consider the number of quarterbacks Cooper has played with across his career. But it's not just about the throws. It's the rhythm, the leadership, the huddle presence. During a 2-minute drill, Shedeur resets a flustered offensive line, calls the right protection, and hits 3 consecutive passes, including a 25-yard sideline rope that stops the clock. The second-team unit explodes with energy, the kind of energy that usually only follows a game-winning drive. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel continues to falter. He's got talent, sure, but the mistakes are stacking up. He misses reads, forces throws. One session ends with him overthrowing a wide-open tight end and walking off the field shaking his head. Coaches pat him on the back, but the body language says it all. The gap is widening. Joe Flacco, every professional, isn't making any mistakes, but he's not making magic either. He's just there, reliable, steady, but uninspiring. It's clear he's the break glass in case of emergency option. The coaching staff knows it. The players know it. And Shedeur, he knows it too. What's most fascinating now is a growing divide between the old NFL mindset, stick with the veteran, play it safe, and the new school thinking that says, if the kid can ball, let him ball, and Shedeur can ball. That's what the fans are screaming from the stands now. It started as a murmur during open practices, a few shouts of, put Shedeur in. But by day 10, it's full-on chants. Kids wearing number 5 jerseys, parents holding signs. Local radio shows dedicating entire segments to whether or not Sanders should be QB1. It's a movement, one that the Browns didn't anticipate, but one they now can't ignore. And the team's social media? Yeah, they're leaning in. Quietly, subtly, but it's happening. More clips of Shedeur's throws. More shots of him locked in at practice. They're testing the waters, seeing how far they can go without making it political. Because let's be honest, this whole thing is political now. Every rep that Sanders doesn't get with the starters feels like a statement, a decision to not embrace the future. And inside the locker room, that's starting to create friction, not open mutiny, but it's there. One source of the mood is shifting, that some players are done pretending this is a real competition. In short, they see what we see. They know who the best quarterback on the field is, and they're waiting for the organization to catch up. So now the Browns are at a crossroads. They've got one preseason game to test the waters, to put Sanders in, even for a single series of the starters, and see what happens. That's all it would take. One series, one drive, one chance. Because if he goes 5 for 5 with a touchdown, if he commands a huddle, hits every read, and walks off that field like he owns it, the conversation is over. You can't bury that. Not even with 10 years of veteran loyalty. And if they don't give him that chance, if they run Flacco and Gabriel out for the whole game, and let Sanders rot on the second team again, well, then they're making another kind of statement. That performance doesn't matter here. That pedigree is more important than production. That they'd rather protect egos than build a future. And that, more than anything, is what would lose the locker room. Not just for this season, but for good. Because players want to win. They don't care where you were drafted. They care about what you do when the pads come on. And every day, Shedeur Sanders proves he's the one moving the chains. The Browns have a choice. They can stick to the script, ride out the veterans, and watch another season slip away in mediocrity. Or they can take the leap, let the kid play, ignite the fan base, flip the narrative. Because Shedeur isn't just a rookie with a famous dad. He's not just a guy making noise in training camp. He's the quarterback this team has been waiting for, whether they realize it or not. And the clock is ticking. The moment is coming. And if Cleveland blinks, someone else won't. The first preseason game comes and goes, and in classic Browns fashion, it's everything but decisive. Joe Flacco gets the start, looks fine, throws a few safe completions, and leads a field goal drive before sitting out. Dillon Gabriel gets a chunk of time but struggles again with timing and ball placement, including one particularly bad underthrow that nearly ends in a pick six. And Shedeur? He finally gets a series in the second half, with a second-team offense against a backup defense, and makes it count. Quick slants, a sharp rollout, and a gorgeous 35-yard touchdown strike that threads 2 defenders like it was pulled from a video game. It's quiet confidence, smooth mechanics, and clutch execution. Again, by the end of the night, the fan reaction is deafening. Local sports radio is lit up with callers demanding Sanders start next week. National outlets start picking it up. Could Shedeur Sanders actually win the Browns' QB job? And the pressure on Kevin Stefanski begins to feel like a full-court press. But what's fascinating now isn't just Shedeur's ability to impress. It's how his very presence is unraveling the delicate politics of the Browns' front office. When GM Andrew Berry took Gabriel in the 3rd round, it was seen as a long-term developmental move. Low risk, familiar system. But he wasn't supposed to be leapfrogged by a 5th-rounder in August, and certainly not one with as much media gravity as Shedeur. That gravity is now impossible to ignore. Whether it highlights on NFL Network, viral Twitter clips of his preseason throw, or barbershop debates in Cleveland, Shedeur is the conversation. And that's where things start to fracture behind the scenes. Some coaches, particularly on the offensive side, are reportedly lobbying hard for him to get reps with the starters in the next game. The defense? According to insiders, they're fully on board. Myles Garrett was even heard joking, "He's cooking us. Give the man some starters to work with." But Stefanski, ever cautious, is still resisting the push. He's trying to avoid a locker room divide. He's trying not to disrespect the veterans. He's trying to buy time. But every rep he gives to Gabriel over Sanders is drawing more side eyes, more doubt, more questions he doesn't have answers to. The turning point comes in a closed-door meeting after practice, where Sanders reportedly addressed the team, not to complain about reps, but to thank the guys blocking for him, catching for him, and pushing him to get better. Coaches weren't present. It wasn't planned, but it hit hard. Veterans who weren't sure how to feel about this rookie quarterback with a famous last name, they're bought in now. And that kind of moment, you can't coach that. You can't fake it. That's leadership. Now, the Browns find themselves facing a rare, uncomfortable truth. Shedeur Sanders might already be their best quarterback and the most respected one in the room. But they didn't plan for this. They weren't ready for this. And now they're scrambling to adapt to a reality they didn't think they'd face until 2026. So what happens next? Let's talk worst-case scenario. The Browns ignore the signs. Flacco starts week 1. Gabriel holds a clipboard. Sanders stays third string. They drop their first 2 games, one to the Bengals, one to the Ravens, and the fan base turns hostile. Booing, posters, free Shedeur, trending on social. That locker room loyalty, it starts to crack. You can't ask professional athletes to play for a regime that ignores merit. But let's talk best case. Let's say the Browns embrace the future. They bump Sanders up to first-team reps in joint practices. They give him a preseason start. He holds his own, or better yet, he shines again. Stefanski pivots, finally listens to his team. Sanders wins the job. Week 1, under the lights in Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders walks onto the field as the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. The city would erupt.